All right, and that is a wrap on the second ODI, a thriller. I think following on from the first ODI, this seems to be a trend in this series where it's going to be keeping Mark awake throughout the night. I think we have to look at the scorecard immediately of the second innings. We have the Pakistani batting lineup. Openers didn't do much. Umaima Sohail had a good knock there, but couldn't convert. And then back end of the innings, we have Nida Dar and Aliya Riaz put on a 111-run partnership, the best, highest partnership, six-wicket partnership of Pakistan. But we look at the bowling charts, and I think each of those bowlers have a story of their own. Shabnam Ismail in her 100th ODI, probably not the score or the results that she'd wanted. Marizan Kapp, on the other hand, probably the MVP of this ODI, cleaning up the top order immediately. And then we have Non-Kuruleku Amlaba, who's playing her second ODI. Very, very different figures to her first ODI. And then finally, Sunaylu's as well. Sunaylu's, my bad, who didn't bowl herself too much, which is again a question that we have to come to. But before we get into those things in detail, I want to hear some raw reactions. Claire, we'll start with you. Your team did cross the line, but in a shaky manner once again.
Yeah, well, I think in the change of innings sort of discussion, we spoke about process and I said how important process is, and I'm just worried process was kind of thrown out the window in this ODI. I feel a little bit. Look, obviously very grateful to get over the line, and it is a series win for South Africa, but at times it was a copy paste from the first ODI. Yes, there were definitely improvements from the batting perspective, so a big plus there. We need to look for the positives in it. But the fielding, I said off air earlier, it was the only word I can use is diabolical. I mean, we dropped Riaz twice when she gave us opportunities at critical times. I mean, taking that first one, that would have been a game like wrapped up, done and dusted. There were probably 3 or 4 really good run-out opportunities that we also missed. Look, run-outs are often tough, and a couple of them were square of the wicket, so it's always hard. You're going for one stump. But I just feel at this level we should be sort of converting those chances a little more often. But look, grateful to get over the line. I thought Pakistan did fantastically well. I don't think Mark was not burned. So for them to take it so close, we cannot say this series has been boring by any means.
Right, and Mark, you said you were concerned. Where does that sort of stand as of now?
Well, I think I think I mentioned that I thought one of 2 things would happen. They'd either go reasonably close, which they did, or there'd be a blowout. And I sort of had a bet each way at 5 for 95 or 5 for 75. It could easily have been a blowout. But again, those 2, Riaz and Dar, just played so well to get them so close. But that scoreboard pressure was mounting. And Claire's right. South Africa just allowed them back in the game with this very poor fielding display. And I think the concern for Hilton now is that it hasn't happened once, it's happened twice. And that's the worry, because against very clinical teams, Australia, India and England, that game will be over. They will lose. So that would be a massive concern for South Africa. But, a wonderful, wonderful effort really by Pakistan in pretty hot conditions, 33, I think they were saying. And obviously Claire was mentioning the other day that humidity is right up there. So they did really, really well to get that close and really making it an exciting game. And unfortunately, they've lost a series, but I think they can hold their heads up pretty high going into the last ODI coming up on Tuesday.
Right, and I think we mentioned that from the first ODI they were a bit disheartened, and I don't know if that played an effect into this ODI, but I would only assume that it's like sort of shot their morale even further down. So Ananya, can you tell us a little bit about firstly your thoughts on the game, a very exciting game, but also how do they pick themselves up? The series is out of their hands, so how do they get into the third ODI?
Well, I think it was an incredible game. At the halfway stage, I don't think any of us gave them much of a chance. I didn't think they would get as close as they did, to be very honest. And again, I thought Umaima Sohail played exceptionally well. She was very aggressive, like Mark said. And, I think she put away the bad balls. And I think that's what gave Pakistan a bit of momentum, a bit of hope at the very beginning. And then she got out at probably the wrong time, and then we saw another collapse. And I think I thought that, okay, they may get 150, but the fact that Aliya Riaz and Nidadar played as well as they did, and what I found very strange about their partnership was it was 111 runs, yes, but they never ever looked like they were communicating very well. There were so many run-out opportunities throughout that partnership, and they were constantly yelling at each other and telling each other to take a start and be ready. But it was very comical, to be honest. But I thought they played exceptionally well to get Pakistan as close as they did. So yeah, I mean, I was very excited towards the end, hoping that Aliya Riaz would get them over the line. But of course, that didn't happen. But I think they can take a lot out of this. Yes, they lost the game and it was very close, and it'll probably hurt them a lot more because it's a close loss. But there is so much to look forward to. I mean, I guess you have to look at it as just a one-game series. You forget about the previous two games and go in hoping that you can probably improve on the things that you didn't do well in the previous two games. It's going to be hard to kind of lift yourselves, but I think that's what professional cricketers are expected to do. You have to find a way to improve every day. And, it's not going to be easy, but hopefully Pakistan have shown a lot of fight through the series when no one expected them to. So hopefully in the third ODI, they managed to do something like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that partnership. I think it was beautiful to watch, but it was chaotic, as you mentioned. And that sort of, I'd never seen anything like it where you can't communicate that well, but you're able to score runs and put pressure on the opposition at the same time. That was something new that I got to watch, I think. But just let's have a look at this bowling lineup, and let's start off with Marizan Kap. I think she hit 18 or 19 runs off the last over of Pakistan's bowling, and then she comes out with the new ball in her first over. She takes a wicket. What is it about her, Claire? If you can elaborate on this, like what is it about her? Is it just that she's really good, or just, I don't know, is she one of the best players in the world? I can't understand this. Like, what can she not do, really?
It's a great question. I don't know if there are many things that she can't do. No, I mean, she's just a fantastic player. I mean, you can't take anything away from her. She's incredibly disciplined, but also incredibly hard on herself. And you could see a couple of times where she dropped the ball short, or even if there's a misfield of her bowling, she's a little bit like Shubnam. Like, you don't want a misfield of their bowling. You'll know about it on the field, and you probably know about it a little bit in the change room afterwards. So they take it really seriously, and but she just is she's a fantastic player. I mean, she literally, I would have probably said, like, won that game for South Africa. You were in a bit of trouble in the batting, and then she managed to accelerate, hitting 18 off that last over, never mind 53 in the last 5 overs. So, if you take the 5 overs out of the game, and you say if South Africa maybe scored like at 6 runs and over, got to 30 or even 40, Pakistan would have gone and won this match. Marizan Kap really sort of won the game probably with the batting, and then off she comes and she dawdles in and she picks up 3 wickets. So no, she's just a fantastic performer for South Africa, and I wish her all the best, and she really puts a lot of hard work into what she needs to do.
Yeah, those runs at the end were the crucial difference, a 13-run win for South Africa in the second ODI. Mark, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned one thing and one thing only, that they have to come out with an attacking mindset, with positive intent. They did lose early wickets, but did you see glimpses of that, or even a good amount of positive mindset from the Pakistani batters?
Well, I did, and we've mentioned her mum, Sohail. I thought she played really, really well, and she's a great timer of the ball. I mean, she doesn't look like, again, there's not a lot. She times the ball. She's got a great bat swing, and I thought she played really well. And I think you might have mentioned that she went out at a crucial time, and that may have, if she'd have just carried on a little bit as well, there was a little bit of momentum going there. But nasty 40s that she is sometimes guilty of getting. But she did play well. She took the attack to South Africa and put them on the back foot there for a little bit. But, there was just, at the end of it, there was just a little bit too much work to do. And as Claire's mentioned and Anya's mentioned, that the South Africa just kept opening the door with the poor fielding. I'm really surprised. I don't know how you address that, because I think you can sometimes concentrate on it too much and it just gets worse and worse. So I'm not sure how they're going to approach that. But I get the feeling that they will be in the dressing room right now very concerned at their performances. So it's going to be an interesting third ODI in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think unforced errors is something that people don't notice too often, but that's really the crucial difference. You can make like very blatant errors and lose a game, but if you do smaller mistakes again and again, that I think would be more concerning, where they're not rectifying something that they could do. Ananya, I'm going to put you on the spot here and then ask you, what do you think? Let's, for example, Sunil is saying in the dressing room right now, they have won the series, they have won 2 ODIs, but there are some things that she has to address.
Yeah, well, I think she's going to be very upset with the way they weren't able to close out the game. They weren't able to close out the first game. They weren't able to close out the second game. And I think all of them are going to be extremely, upset with the way the game panned out, I suppose. But I'm not sure how she would address this, because as we've mentioned earlier, that she seems very not very confident of her own ability right now. So I think it would be very difficult for her to address a team and full of senior players and say, look, we really need to pull up our socks. We need to do a lot of things better. And it's going to be very interesting. Like Claire mentioned, people like Marizan Kap and Shabnam Ismail are very hard on themselves, very hard on their teammates. So, even if Sunil doesn't have choice words for her teammates, I'm sure that Kap and Ismail will say a few things to them. So, I'm hoping that, they're able to pull up their socks, field a little better, at least in the next game. I mean, this isn't the South Africa that we know, that we saw in the World Cup even. So, they are capable of fielding a lot better. I think they're one of the better fielding sides in the world, but I think they're a shadow of themselves right now.
Yeah, and we talk about the bowling side. I think Ayabonga Kaka, who was an introduction into this game, has taken a 4-wicket haul. She did drop a catch towards the end, and there were nerves there because she had to come back and sort of prove herself in that over. Claire, can you tell us a little bit about maybe what she really added and how she kind of built her way into this team, into this lineup today, and what she contributed to the team?
Look, Ayabonga Kaka's been around the South African setup for quite a while. She's probably sort of one of the new up and coming players that sort of got the most experience and most exposure to international cricket. I always say, I think the reason she got a look in was because of just a little bit more height. She's probably the best way to describe it would be lanky. She's tall, she's thin, she's an athletic, woman when she approaches the crease, and she can get a little bit of extra bounce. So I think that's why she was sort of initially brought into the team. She bowled really, really well. I was reasonably happy with how she performed. The one thing I am a little bit concerned about is sometimes our field settings. It's really, really difficult to be bowling to a 6-3 field. You saw Nadine de Klerk really struggle at times and putting the ball down the leg side. But Nadine de Klerk did very well to bring it back, because she had 2 really bad overs and then she managed to correct it. Ayabonga Kaka, I was also like, she did exactly the same thing. When she needed to make those small corrections, she did make those small corrections. It will be interesting to see how the selection goes for the third ODI, if they give Ayabonga Kaka another run, or if they want to bring in Class. He might be another option for them just to give a run now that they've kind of won the series. Not that I'm saying that they mustn't take it seriously, but I think Class is another fantastic bowler that has a bright future ahead for South Africa. So it would also be good to see her get a run, a little bit of experience, and that's in the side. So but really happy with generally with the bowlers and how they performed. I think the pitch was a better one, so that it was easier for the batsmen to score runs. South Africa did bowl too wide and too short early on, and that's why I think Umema Sahel, she batted beautifully, but I think we also helped her look really good. If you look at where all her runs were scored, it was easy for, the Pakistanis are very strong through, that sort of point area, backward point. And I think especially Ismail, she would be very disappointed and she'll be hard on herself. She was far too short, far too wide early on in the innings, and that's why she that's why they took her off quite early, because she was bleeding some runs.
Yeah, and we talk about the batters facing the South African bowling lineup, and I think Nida Dar and Aliya Riaz in both the ODIs have sort of partnered up and created good partnerships on the field. Obviously, this one much bigger than the first one. But Mark, what do you think it is about them? Is it just that they're able to like anchor the innings and they have that sort of within them? It's their natural game of cricket, or is there some sort of instruction coming in from the dugout saying that you guys have to stick around because after you, it's a bit shaky?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think they're pretty, they're aware of the strengths that they have together, and they're both very competitive. And you can even see that with the running between the wickets, that they're quite competitive runners between the wickets. I wouldn't say they're great runners between the wickets, but they certainly have a lot of discussions about running between the wickets, of which most of them are very unfruitful, I would have thought. But and neither one's wrong or right by the look of that. But they're very, very good players, and they're the two players along with Umaima that can hit a ball and hit it hard. And as you saw, Aliya had a big 6 off cap near the end there. So I think they hold the key to it. I didn't understand Sidra Nawaz coming out again. I can't get my head around that. I just thought that potentially was the loss of the game in terms of the batting. If Riaz was out there for another 10 or 12 balls that Sidra Nawaz faced, that could have been 8 or 9 more runs, which gets Pakistan even closer, particularly with the last over being bowled. But, that's a decision that's been made by the captain and the coach, and it's happened twice now without any success. Yes, the LBWs might have been a little bit here and there, maybe, whether they're out or not up for discussion, but wrong person going out. You needed your best players to face the most balls, and she's not one of your better players because she's not a big girl. She's not going to hit the ball hard. She's a little nudger and up the other end. And I just felt that you needed your best players facing the most balls at that particular time.
So do you reckon that Sidra Nawaz comes in later because, or does she come up top where she has more freedom? How does that work?
No, look, I just think that she's a player that bats 9 or 10 and always has really for most of her career. So that's where she bats. I'm not sure what they're trying to do with her role, whether they think that she needs to contribute more with the bat. But you've got if that's the case, and that's okay. You've got to be good enough to be able to contribute more with the bat. And I don't see that she's any better than Aliya Riaz at this particular stage. I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm not sure what Anya and Claire think. But I don't see her any better than Aliya Riaz.
Yeah, I mean, Aliya is career best. And Sidra Nawaz, actually, to me, she looks like two different people in both the innings. She's very vocal, very confident on the field when she's behind the stumps. And then she's just a sort of a different person when she's batting. It's 2 LBWs and 2 ODIs, like close calls, and she's a bit dejected. It's quite interesting to see that she has that sort of different dynamic. But Ananya, why don't I go to you, and let's start off with Mlaba and her sort of spell. We see that her first ODI was 1 wicket, 19 runs conceded. Completely different here. Her first ball went for 4, and then she went on to concede 46 runs for no wicket. Some would say, well, that's just cricket. But what is the expert sort of analysis on this spell?
Yeah, well, I think like we've mentioned through these discussions, I think the wicket was better. There was more pace in it, more carry in it, and I think it was easier to score runs. And Mlaba was bowling at a very, very slow pace. So I think we saw a lot of the Pakistani batters pretty much camp on the back foot and try and hit her through point or through extra cover area. So I think they kind of figured out how they could score against her. We saw Nida Dar pull out the sweep. They were trying to manipulate the field and force Sunelisa and Mlaba to kind of change their field. So I think that's what worked. Again, it was a different day, a different wicket. It probably didn't suit her. I think she was a tad too slow through the air and allowed them to camp on the back foot. She didn't. We saw that she got a bit of purchase off the wicket. She was getting some turn, but I think she was a little too short. Her lengths didn't force the batters to come forward like she did in the first ODI. We saw in the first ODI that she was constantly bringing the batters forward and forcing them to feel for the ball, which they didn't have to do today. She conceded a lot of runs through that point in extra cover area. So yeah, I mean, that is cricket. It's different every day, and you have to adapt to the conditions that are in front of you. And I think that's the art of spin, that you have to understand what pace to bowl on what kind of wickets and in different conditions. And I'm sure she'll continue to do that the more she plays. It's you know, it's a lesson that she'll put in the bank and probably pull out the next time she comes to India, or if Durban continues to produce wickets like this, then the next time she plays in Durban.
Yeah, and it's early days in her career. I mean, everything's a learning curve. So it's exciting to see her get game time and obviously make a mark in the South African lineup as well. Claire, I wanted to ask you, and this is something that's, I guess it's bothering everyone, is Sunil as an individual. And so as a player and as a captain, two different people, but she's not able to bring out the player in herself as well to some extent. So how, like, where do you just, as a player, what do you do to regain your confidence? Is just bowling enough in the nets, or you just need one game to go out there and do well? Because she doesn't seem to be giving herself the opportunity to even try to do well. So where does she go from here?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question and quite a tough one to answer. So look, she had a really good innings with the bat in hand. And over the last couple of years, that's really been her strength and where she's sort of developed as an all-rounder. I still feel she is a very useful asset to the South African lineup with ball in hand as well. And I feel she should be given the chance to bowl. The problem is that she needs to build that confidence. And the only way you do that is by bowling in matches. We all know we can bowl thousands of deliveries in the nets, but it's such a different feel in your hand, in your tummy, all of that sort of thing when when you're going to run in and actually deliver that ball in an international or even a provincial game. So, I would like to almost see her, it must be a thing for her when she's playing provincial cricket that she has to be bowling, her full quota of overs in a provincial setup to try and sort of get her confidence back. But then from a sort of a senior, from a core perspective, the players need to really try and get around her. I think, Marizanne Cup, and have a chat with her and just see if they can help her with her confidence. She generally comes across as a person who doesn't have a lot of self-belief, and with people around her to build her up. It doesn't sort of, a bit of an introvert. Danae Faniko just sort of oozes confidence and sort of oozes style and all of that sort of thing, and all the players around her feed off that. Mignon du Preez, I would almost say, was sort of a little bit of a combination between both of them. Probably didn't have sort of the exuberance on the field, although she had a huge amount of confidence. So it's so interesting when you see the different players, how they captain and how they come across. I think maybe Mignon would probably be a perfect person just to try and take Sinead aside and just say, come on, we need to chat through this. Like, can we work? What is worrying you? But she needs to talk about it. She needs to vocalize it and work out for herself how she can get better in it. But she has to come out of her shell. And I think because at times she's not coming out of her shell, it's almost like allowing the South African players to get into that lull in a way. We saw where the fielding went and the drop catches and the run outs, and Mark said, like, how does Hilton improve it? How does he, and it's not a skill thing. We've all seen the South African ladies, they are fantastic fielders. It's not a skill thing at all. In my opinion, it's a mindset thing. It's how they're approaching it, that feeling that they're getting. Are they becoming complacent? Is it a bit of contentness that's settling in when they're on top of things? The mind goes wandering. So for me, it's about that. And I think the captain can be crucial in pulling that together when you're on the field.
Yeah, Mark, I wanted to just touch upon this. Haven't been in the coaching setup for a while now. Is there some sort of resource from the coaching end where players can go to understand, how to improve mindset-wise, confidence-wise?
Well, there's a lot of talk about psychologists and things, and we had a couple of psychologists come in before series. You have to have the right person. I think that's the most important thing. It's no use just getting a psychologist in to talk if they don't relate to the players. So that's I'm not sure of the South African setup, but we made sure that the players related to the sports psychologists that came in and spoke to them. I think that's a really important point. But I 100% agree with what Claire said. and Ananya as well, and yourself. I think for Sune, it's almost a strength for Pakistan in a way that I would be a little bit concerned if I was the captain of South Africa, because you've got so many senior players there, and you've got Lee, you've got Cap, you've got Ishmael, and you've got Dupree, and they've all got great leadership skills, or they're former captains or a former captain. It's very hard to stamp your authority on that, because when it goes wrong, who do the players look to? Do they look to Sune, or do they look to Ishmael, or do they look to Cap? Because they're all very strong personalities. And I think some of the players, the younger ones, are now going, it's going wrong. Who's the captain? And if Sune is not being a strong leader, and I don't think we're seeing that, I think she's stepping back, she's stepping forward because they're strong personalities and they're natural leaders, then it can be a weakness. And I think Pakistan, and you will see that they've probably kept going and they've found a little gap, and we can't see it for sure, but I think there's confusion in the South African fielding when it gets tough, and we've seen it twice. There's no natural leader coming out here, and so others are stepping in, and I think that's maybe where Pakistan have got on top, because I don't know whether there's enough leadership out there, or they're confused. South African younger players are confused as to who the leader is, if that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, it seems to be that there are too many leaders and maybe no leaders at the same time. It's a bit of confusion. So before we move on to the next segment, Ananya, one last question for you is, are we feeling the absence of Dene, and not Dene the batter or the bowler, but Dene the leader?
I mean, I guess
From my point of view,
that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I guess you can say that. I mean, all the points that we've made through these discussions seems to point to the fact that, you know, South Africa don't have a strong leader out there. And of course, they are missing Dene. Like Claire said, she's a very strong personality, seems to attract people towards her. She knows how to get the best out of her team. And I think she's set them on a path that's worked for them since she took over in 2016. She's found a way or a method that works for South Africa. She's very hard on her players. You can see her emotions on the field. She wears her heart on her sleeve. And I think, I mean, we sometimes talk about like India has Mithali Raj. She's a very strong leader. She doesn't show any emotion. And then the T20 team has Harmanpreet Kaur, who shows a lot of emotion. But I think both are very strong personalities. They have their own ways. They've learned how to lead. And I think Sunelise is still finding her way. I think, like I said earlier, I think it's hard to be a stand-in captain when you can't really make a stand. You're stepping in for someone and you're not even a vice captain. I think that's even harder for her. Chloe Tryon's the vice captain, and she tends to get injured when Dene gets injured. So Sune kind of gets stuck into these positions. So I think it's a hard thing, and I mean, she'll learn from it. Hopefully, I think South Africa are missing Dene, but there's only hope that Sune will learn from this and potentially, find her mojo again, because she is a very important player for South Africa.
Right. On that note, let's move on to our next segment called the Yay or Nay. Now you have to pick two moments from this match. There were inspired batting performances filled with grit and resilience, and a lot of good bowling as well. So Claire, we'll start with you. A moment that made you go yay, and one that was like, okay, no, not again.
I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself from the first ODI, just with actually with the same player. But Morazan Cup's innings as a whole, I thought was fantastic. Never mind her bowling, that was also incredible. But for me, just her batting, she launched it for the last 5 overs, and then hitting 18 in the last over. So that was definitely my yay moment, hands down. My nay moment again was the South African fielding as a whole, just absolutely diabolical. Just at that international level, we cannot be fielding like that. And as Mark said earlier, if you do that against England, India, and Australia, and even New Zealand, you're not going to come away winning the game. And ultimately, South Africa, where the momentum Proteas want to go, they want to be consistently challenging those top sides, and therefore you have to get your fielding correct. It's your other discipline, and it can seriously win you matches, and or lose you matches, and we almost saw it in today's game again. So that definitely would be my nay, unfortunately, for the second time in a row.
Yeah, ironic that both your yay and nay are pretty similar this time around as well. Mark, what about you?
Well, I'll go from a Pakistan point of view. Look, my yay was the partnership of Nida and Aliya. I thought that nearly got Pakistan very close to getting over the line. My nay is two little things. I think we need to get the batting order right for Pakistan, and I think we probably need to have a go at batting first if we get that opportunity again. And maybe if we post a score on the board, then the scoreboard pressure will go back onto South Africa. So I think my nay, yes, let's have a go at batting and get some runs on the board and put the pressure back on South Africa that way.
All right, so a different decision at the top. Ananya, your turn.
Well, I'm trying not to pick the same one, so I'm gonna go. My yay was Omema Sohail. I really, really love the way she batted. I think her approach was exceptional. She came out all guns blazing and went after the fast bowlers at the start. So Omema Sohail is my yay. My nay is Pakistan's over rate. I think they were terrible. I think women's teams rarely go overtime, and the fact that they were 15, close to 18 minutes overtime is, I think, inexcusable. So that's my nay moment.
Right, and your yay moment actually, I quite like it because the number 3 is someone who's really, I mean, crucial to that lineup, because you assume that one wicket might fall at the beginning and then they have to really come in and stabilize things. So I was glad that you picked Omema over maybe Aliya Riaz's like super innings. But right, so let's move on to another third ODIs coming up on Tuesday 26th. Any concerns within the South African squad that they should correct? I mean, we're probably repeating ourselves here, but apart from the fielding and the general keeping up the pressure on Pakistan, what else can South Africa can do heading into the third ODI? Claire?
I think, let's take all the skills out of it. I would just like to see sort of a better attitude when they're in the field. It's also, they need to get their mindsets right. So often when you've won the series sort of 2-0 and you've only got one more game to go, that's when as a team you can let it sort of dip a little bit. I would really like them to see them be absolutely clinical, make a massive change in how they approach their fielding, and maybe even change up the team a little bit. Like, I don't think they need to make too many changes as well. They're not too many issues, but we've also got another really exciting spinner, Shangasi, and maybe it's an opportunity for her to have a run. So that's kind of where I would like to see things go. And it'll be interesting to see another track used at Kingsmead Durban.
So just a quick follow-up on that. Do you think they're going to put out 100% a strong squad coming up for the third ODI, or they might give way for some newcomer to have a chance at playing?
Well, look, I don't think any of the changes that I would make personally, I don't think actually weaken the side at all. So I don't think that by playing sort of a class ahead of a Kaka or Shangasi ahead of Laba, I don't think you're weakening the team at all. I think if you kept with the same team, that's a safe option, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't see anything wrong with it. But it might just be an interesting thing just to give one or two other players just a different run. I don't see many changes, to be honest, in the batting lineup. I think those batters are starting to get into some good form, and they would like to keep that. But I think there are some tinkerings that can happen with the bowling attack. And it's just an opportunity. That's kind of all I'm saying. I don't think it has to be changed, but there is an opportunity from the coaching staff and the sort of team selection side. So that could be.
Right. Mark, moving on to the Pakistan 11 that's going to come out on Tuesday, what do you want to see, apart from the people who come out, what do you want to see from them as well?
Oh, look, I think they've shown some great fight, and I'd like to see that continue as well. I think they need to be really clear on what they're going to do. I've got a concern that we may have seen Javeria Khan play her last one-day international in this particular series. in the ODIs, because I suspect that the match referee might ban her. If that's the case, there'll be a forced change, and they're going to have to find a captain. And there's no real obvious contenders. I would say Nidada may be one, but there isn't any real other contenders for that role. So that's an issue for them. And then I guess my other potential changes at the top of the order, where the two openers have failed twice now. And I would say that there might be a change there. So whether or not that is Aisha Zafar coming in from Maniba, I'm not sure. So maybe there won't be a forced change if the rules have changed within the ICC, but certainly Javeria may face some sort of fine or penalty or whatever it might be. But she's going to be very lucky, excuse me, to get away with what she did.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me to see that although they lost the first ODI and they got a big, a lot of runs hit against them in the first innings, they came out really strong. I think the mindset is there, and it's good to see that, because that's half the battle right there. And then you can just back your skill and do your thing. So I'm really happy to see that they have that sort of mental strength, and hopefully we do see a close game as this one as well. Ananya, your thoughts, any preview on the third ODI? What can viewers expect, and what do you want to see from it?
Well, as far as what I want to see goes, I actually want to see Mignon du Preez bat at number 4. I just feel like at number 5, she's kind of wasted. And you think of Dane van Nika coming back into this side, she's probably going to bat 4 or 5. So I think du Preez, I would want to see her bat at 4, because I feel like I don't know, I love watching her bat, and I think she's the best player of spin. So, but maybe they're sending in Laura Goodall at number 4 just to break up the right-handers. So as far as what I want to see, that's what I want to see. But I think Pakistan have shown a lot of fight. Like I said this before, that I did not give them any chance coming into the series. I thought they would be blown away. And while they have lost the series, I didn't think that they would compete as much as they have. So, hopefully we continue to see that fight. I think they've shown a lot of character. We've seen different people step up at different times. But what I'd really like to see from Pakistan is probably, it's a problem that we've seen over the last couple of years, is that they seem to fade away towards the end of a 50-over innings. They field and bowl very well for 25-30 overs, and then the last 20 overs they just I don't know, their shoulders drop, they concede a bunch of runs. And we saw that this time as well, that the encouragement from Sidra Nawaz and all these people turned up to be pleading towards the end that please stop these balls, or please put your body on the line. And I think Pakistan really need to work on that. And it may be hot, it may be very humid, they may be very tired, but these are things that going into a World Cup next year that they'll really have to pick up, they'll really have to improve. So yeah, I think hopefully we see another very good game. And supporting an underdog, I'd like to see a Pakistan win, but I'm not going to hedge my bets there.
No, but all for an underdog story. I think that would be the icing for their tour, at least on the ODI side. And Ananya, just quickly, do you have any thoughts on the changes coming in for both lineups in the third ODI? Do you expect any changes? Do you want to see any changes?
Well, I don't know. I think South Africa, like Claire said, they have a couple of options in Masabata Class and Shangase. Whether they'll do that, I'm not sure. I think Ayabanga Kaka showed what she's capable of doing in this ODI. And I kind of thought that she was brought in simply because they weren't sure of Marizan Kaap. We saw her kind of struggle in the first ODI, and I think they wanted someone to close out the death. Kaka did that in India in 2019. She bowled some really good Yorkers and slower balls on that tour. So I think they kind of wanted a bit of cushion there. And I think I hope she's done enough to keep her place. I think she's a very good bowler, but so is Class. So that's a possibility. But I don't think I'd want to see any changes in their 11 as such. But I wanted maybe a few shifts in their batting order. But as far as Pakistan goes, I think if Javeria Khan, and I don't think, from what I understand of these rules, is that Javeria Khan is probably or get a few points. Dock a few points, but I don't think she's gonna get banned immediately. That's a second offense thing that comes up. So they may not have to replace her, but I mean, I saw Aisha Zafar bat against England in 2019, and I really enjoyed. It was a very short innings, but I liked the way she approached it. But I am a fan of Muniba Ali, and I'd like to see Pakistan stick with her. I think she's a very good prospect, and she showed that through the 2019-20 period. She hasn't got runs on this tour, but I think